And where we're at in the events industry and innovations. We've got a very, very esteemed panel here today. I think a good way is to start with introductions. So Gill, do you want to start and we'll go from there?
Hi, I'm Gill Tee. I've been in the music industry a long time. I'm now consulting for Superjam Education in Music and Media. I'm also chair and trustee of the Superjam Foundation.
Hi, I'm Mel. I'm one of the directors of Continental Drifts, and I'm here really talking about a couple of our projects, which is Festival and Carnival Lab, and also our Unmute roster.
My name's Ty. I run an events brand called Kick and Play Events, and I was part of the cohort Festival Carnival Lab over the past 2 years and helped to support.
Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I saw you all flinch then. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Lansley. A quick visual description of myself. I'm a white male in my mid-40s, but you'd be mistaken, not mistaken to think I'm late 30s. I've got a shaved head and a little bit of a beard, and I kind of look like a fuzzy egg. I'm here for Attitude is Everything, as I am the campaigns and commercial services consultant.
Okay, and Andrew, I'll start with you. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about in this session, but if you've got your Attitude is Everything hat on, can you just give a little bit of an overview of what you guys do and how you sort of address the accessibility issue and improve accessibility at live events, and not just physical accessibility, but for mental health and maybe people who have neurodivergent, like autism as well?
That's amazing, Max. I think you've just done that. So Attitude is Everything are a charity who've been working for 26 years with disabled audiences and the deaf and neurodivergent audiences and artists, trying to make events and culture more accessible. Everything kind of is centred around our Charter of Best Practice, which is a UK government recognised framework of standards for events. And we work with festivals and events all around the UK to make things more accessible and more inclusive. And we have a whole bunch of services around the Charter, like consultancy and training, so people can approach us and use us and have us help them make everything more accessible.
And where do you think we're at with accessibility in live events at the moment? What needs to be improved? What's going well? Can you just give us a little bit of an overview of where you think we're at right now?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a hamster wheel. I think anyone who works in access, you feel like it's a forever war. Any event that says it's 100% or fully accessible, it's definitely not. I think we have some social and discourse challenges geopolitically, which is creating some different disinformation that's kind of inhibiting progress. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible here, everyone. So we've got lots of challenges at the moment, and the events industry has got a lot of pressure on it and is kind of seen as the front line to solve all of these problems, but don't have the support themselves. So that's why I think Attitude is Everything plays a really pivotal role in that dynamic, because we can help people remove the guesswork. We can show them what good looks like. So just clarity around standards and a bit of awareness and, dare I say, kindness from society more widely.
And Gill, could you just give us a bit of an idea about your work at Superjam? Because you do some amazing work with a lot of people with mental health issues and people who are neurodivergent as well, and helping them grow. Can you just give everyone an overview of what you do and how you help them with music and events and stuff?
Yeah. I started working with 7 students as a mentor 12 and a half years ago. Those 7 students are now, it's 5 colleges, which are all helping and educating through music and media young neurodivergent or young people with educational needs. It's the most incredible, inspiring place you could ever go to watch young people grow and blossom and become who they are. And a lot of these young people have fallen through education. They're aged 16 to 26. And the new college in Earls Court can take 100 students. And when you go and see what's going on there, it blows your mind. So I've been in the music industry a long time under very various roles that I've played. I've run festivals, I've got a production company, like loads of old stuff. But nothing touches my heart like being involved with this organisation that's growing, and it's so necessary now. More than ever, these young people need to be recognised for the talent they've got. So my role now, what I'm doing as a consultant to Superjam, is to show this industry that we're in that these young people are bloody talented and they deserve to work in our industry and to be recognised for the people they are and how amazing they are. So that's kind of that's why I am.
And obviously that's so important for, and talking about innovations in DEI, and it's growing that grassroots level and growing it up and giving young people the opportunity to get into the industry. Ty, can you just give an overview of some of your experiences with Kick and Play events as well? Can you just give an overview of what you do there and what you've done at Festival Lab as well, about how the opportunities that it's given people there to access the live events industry when maybe they might have not had a chance to do so without these?
Okay, so for myself, I started a brand, Kick and Play, which was to take urban contemporary genres of music into spaces that are not typical. But what I found being based in Bristol, I'd hit a ceiling and I find it very hard to get into venues and into the spaces I wanted, and I was very limited on what I could do. So that's where I was. Festival Lab, somebody shared it to me. I seen that, for let me try and experience this and see what it does. And by doing Festival Lab, it allowed me to remove that ceiling and look what is next and how I can implement Kick and Play into a larger scale. And the intention is to take it to a festival. With Kick and Play currently, we're working with a lot of emerging talent from all around the country, and we're giving them a platform to showcase their music, and they can provide live mixes, which we show on YouTube, and each week we're releasing music for people to hear. But it's just about Kick and Play effectively started to get people into spaces that are not typical, and Festival Lab enhanced that for myself and helped me on my personal journey and growth to make that happen.
And Ty, why do you think that's important in today's event landscape as well? Especially, it's very commercial, and I feel a lot of people can be forgotten in the industry. So why do you feel like it's very important to have something like that in place?
It's about a lot of people are talking about diversity, but really and truly it's about inclusion and making those things happen. Like for myself, I was a bit older when I started doing this, so I was able to do certain things due to my age and financially I could cover it. But for a lot of people that don't have that, or they're young, and we mention a lot of young people, they can't afford, or they're not in a position to make it happen. And again, even just by doing Festival and Carnival Lab, it opened so many doors. There was a venue in Bristol that I wanted to work with for 3 years. I was emailing, I was Instagramming on DMs. I was very unconventional where I was going about it. It couldn't happen. By a placement that I'd done on Festival Lab, I met the right person, they trusted me, they seen how I worked, and it allowed me to now use that venue, and I was the first promoter to use that venue.
And Mel, you were instrumental in setting up Festival and Carnival Lab. Can you just, from your point of view, as someone who helped build it, give us an overview of actually what it is and what it's trying to achieve as well?
So Festival and Carnival Lab was really born out of when we were working on a lot of carnivals. We wanted to try and employ a diverse workforce, but we couldn't really find people, particularly on a more senior production level. So we pivoted a course we were already doing with the Roundhouse and focused it on people of black heritage to try and really build that pipeline. And we've done 3 years now, and we've got great connections still with a lot of the students who've worked with us before. In fact, one of them has just become my client on an event, which is brilliant. So that was really our focus for it. And what we wanted to do was provide paid work opportunities. So we recognise that not everyone can afford to do volunteering, not everyone can go to university, has that parental backing. So we wanted to make it a really genuine experience where people had a job that wasn't just an add-on, that wasn't tokenistic, but that was really valued at an event. And we find that a lot of our students are invited back year on year to work on those events. And that's a really brilliant progression for us to see.
And kind of open to the whole panel, really. Do you feel that progression is so important for the whole ecosystem? Because we talk a lot about programming as well and things like that. But do you feel we need to start from the bottom and really foster diverse talent from the bottom when they're studying, when they're at university? Does anyone want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to look at sort of the event and festival industry as a whole, not just the people coming to events, but the people performing, the people backstage. One of the things we've just started recently is called M.I.C.E, and that's a roster for disabled artists, and trying to break down those barriers and sort of create more opportunities to see people with different abilities on stages, and to try and, I suppose, help them to get to where they want to be within the festival and event world.
And Gill, do you feel programming still has a long way to go for being diverse? And also, do you feel it's important because the people who come up to the festival, the people they see on stage, that's who they're influenced by, that's who they connect with. And if that's not diverse, maybe that doesn't give them a lot of hope. So where do you think we're at with programming in terms of across the board, across the UK events world? Where do you think we're at with lineups and things like that with programming?
I think it's very difficult because I run a festival where it was a really, really diverse artist roster. So I don't know the answers to that. I wish I did. But one thing I do believe is you was just talking about young people coming into the industry and how do they get to these roles and how do we do these different things. We've got to give these young people confidence. It's all very well, like opening the doors for them and there's all these amazing opportunities, but without great mentoring and looking after the progress of that young person, because it takes a lot. 70% of the students from Superjam get university places, which is an incredible, incredible thing. But what happens when they go to university, they lose their confidence. They've been in a great educational system and they lose their confidence. Somehow or other, we've got to find more mentors in the music industry that allow those young people to grow within it, and patience, and allow them to be the amazing people they can be. I'm sorry, I know that wasn't but programming isn't my thing.
Ty, do you want to add?
I just wanted to add, with regards to programming, why cohorts like Festival Lab work, because it allows people like myself to be in spaces where my voice can be heard and help to work towards programming. Recently, there was a festival that was specific to a certain genre of music. They've grown very fast. They released the lineup, and the demographic that they was targeting they picked the wrong headliner basically, and the people that you was targeting within the community wasn't happy with it. And in my opinion, personally, it's because there's not enough people with a vast knowledge of different types of programming, if that makes sense.
And Andrew, staying on the programming side, it's interesting what Ty said there. I remember we talked about it on the call. It's all well and good having a diverse program, but do you feel like some festivals don't really give much thought into where they're putting the particular acts and they kind of just plop them anywhere and maybe it doesn't work? Where do you think we're at there?
I think programming is very challenging. I think the easiest thing someone can do with programming is screenshot a poster and delete every band that's full of dudes and kind of throw rocks at that festival. You speak to the women who program that festival and the challenges they have with agents, with bookers, with availability, with reduced population of artists to book from. It's actually really difficult, and booking has become more difficult as prices have risen in recent years. The events industry is not protected from cost of living whatsoever. So I think people are doing the best they can. And to kind of answer your question directly, I think you've kind of got a spectrum between tokenism and representation. And when I mean representation, I mean like true representation, where it's not just about the opportunity, it's about creating the conditions for that opportunity to be successful. I think in particular, that's what Festival Lab and Superjam do very, very well, is to help people join those dots to get to those places. So for programmers, I think you've got a million problems, the first of which is your budget. But it's really hard to try and find artists who might be local, artists who are representative in music forms, artists who are representative of different areas of intersectionality. So it's really difficult, and I think we don't have a nuanced enough conversation about it.
And kind of shifting the conversation a little bit, Andrew, you do a lot of work trying to kind of get the government to do more in this world. It's more of a it's more of a general question, but do you feel like the government and the kind of the higher ups kind of have an impression of that more does need to be done here, and that normally more people need to be mobilised to kind of do that? Or like, I know you work with a lot, so you're the expert here. Where are we at? I know it frustrates you a lot, so.
I'm just thinking how I kind of skirt this Goldilocks zone with a diplomatic response. It is challenging working to improve regulations. I think there is an appetite for change and there is an appetite to support people. For me, the energy is really within the grassroots. It's in the civic level. I think this kind of interest comes from event organisers, it comes from local authorities, from councils, it comes from small networks and cottage industry groups throughout the UK. I think we're starting to consolidate a lot of that energy and that effort into something which can really represent us as an industry to government. I think John Collins and Live have done a fantastic job of that over recent years. But it's very, very tricky. These are not easy things, and I wish I could give you a more rounded answer.
And then, Ty, I want to talk about more about your events and like the community aspect of it, because I feel it is a very, very commercial industry these days, and how you sort of balance inclusion with commerciality, if that makes sense, and what your events look like on the community level and how they actually activate the local community rather than just put an event in a random field and, you know, Bob's your uncle. It's like, you know, it's all an ecosystem, and where the event's at and how you mobilise the people in that local community is very important.
It's just speaking to the people that attend and keeping a connection with them to understand what they want and what's needed. And as a person from that community, seeing what is needed and what's required, and just trying to stick to that and not make it about money, because I think a lot of people right now is just money. And especially in a time right now where people don't have a lot of money, is allowing people to get as much for their money as possible, as well as allowing the brand to grow. And that's why linking it back to Festival Lab, looking at Festival Lab and the knowledge I gained from that, looking at funding and how I can get support so that the money isn't the core, what I'm looking for the event, if that kind of makes sense.
And does that go down to, Mel, does that go down to education as well? Do you think more people in the live events world, organisers, promoters, producers, do you think the education needs to improve a little bit on DEI, or where do you think we're at with that?
So I think what sometimes happens is that people can be frightened of getting things wrong. So they maybe just shy away from doing things overall because they aren't fully confident about it. But I think some of the best events I've seen are the ones where they're willing to try things, they're willing to get things wrong and to learn from those mistakes and to try and just keep improving on that and get feedback from different communities, bring in experts where they can and where that can be afforded, but just to make action points so that going forward you're learning and you're sort of developing rather than just holding back because you're frightened you might upset someone or not quite do it the right way.
Jill, do you have anything to add to that in terms of like the education aspect of it?
When I started Black Deer Festival, I got the students from Superjam, because I was already involved with them, to come and have their own stage at the festival. It was massively important to me that we gave a live opportunity for young people to be able to come and see what the industry's really like, working from, you know, when it was just a greenfield site, watching their stage build, being part of that. And Black Deer was on their curriculum through the year. And when they arrived on site, they was putting into action the things, technical production, artist liaison, all the things they were learning through the year and seeing it in real time. I think that is giving students an opportunity, or young people an opportunity, to be able to be recognised. Like we have voluntary systems and all of that kind of stuff going on, but when you're on site, you recognise people who are brilliant, and unless they're given the opportunity to show their brilliance, and that's why I call upon promoters and event organisers around the UK to start being brave. Don't be scared. You know, it's very daunting, and I do see it from an organiser's point of view, how daunting it is to take. I had circa 100 young people come to work on that stage in varying degrees, but I kind of thought, how do we make it work? And we had safe space for them, and it was just such a beautiful experience. And every single supplier on my site absolutely loved the Superjam stage. They wanted to help. They donated the stage. They donated everything to do with that whole experience. And what they've all said to me, it was their favourite place. It was the heart of the festival. So more and more promoters and event organisers need to be brave. Don't be scared. It's nothing to be scared of. It's everything to be proud of. So, yeah.
Really well said, Mel. Gill, really well said.
Can I just add to the point? The question you asked me and kind of continue what Joe said. Sometimes it's not about growing, and I think a lot of people are fixated on, and especially in the subject that we're talking about, sort of growing and tick boxing and just numbers. It's all about numbers. And when I'm looking at my brand, for example, it doesn't have to grow. It's organic growth, and it's sticking to the core of why we started this. And I think that's the problem. Everybody just wants to grow and tick boxes and numbers, and it has to be this. And I think that's where the problem lies. And again, that's where the inclusion lies, because you're moving away from who you've created this for and including them. You make them feel alienated.
And I like how you mentioned the Superjam stage. I wanted to talk about, and this is open to the whole panel, about real-world examples at live events, at festivals. Just, it's not really a specific question, just something you've seen related to DEI or related to inclusion and related just giving a little bit of extra accessibility for people. Something you've seen at a festival, on a more positive note, that you've been like, that's great. I remember, Andrew, we were talking about how at certain festivals, like someone who does have like autism or something, a live event can be very overwhelming, you know, like there's a lot of people, there's loud music, and it's just, it can be very, very scary. And we talked about how there's like a lot of quiet spaces and retreats and just places where you can sort of go and breathe, basically. So open to the whole panel. We can start with you, Andrew. Have you seen real world examples at live events where you've been impressed with what they've done there?
Yeah, I think one of my favourite ones that I've seen are the diverse spaces at Glastonbury. And I approached them thinking, I went to the one out front of Westholt stage as well, so I went to the one I thought would be in the noisiest and the kind of most brutal part of the festival site. And they had these wonderful spaces that are temperature controlled, they are light controlled, they have teams there, they have all kinds of resources in them. And I went into one in front of Westholt's. I think it was around the time of the Sugar Babes set 2 years ago. They're really big, crazy one. And I was like, I've got to dip out of this. I can't get into the field to watch the Sugar Babes, so I'm going to go and just chill out for 5 minutes. And it was fantastic. It was just like having this wonderful little world of kind of calm and quiet, which gave me a chance to kind of reset. I'm autistic, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that. And again, I think we had one here last year. There was like a lovely little breakout space, and I was like, oh, a conference with all the kind of big gantry and all the noise. It's lovely to have some spaces to go and relax. But so it's not just festivals, it's kind of conferences and all kinds of spaces.
Anyone else? Any examples of festivals you've been to, being like...
Yeah, so I would say the Great Exhibition Road Festival, because they are very proactive in what they're doing. So they've brought in secret shoppers with a different range of abilities. They've brought in expert advice, but they have an access plan which covers seen and unseen disabilities. It also covers inclusion, trying to get people from the local communities. And they're very proactive every year at looking at who's coming, who's not coming, and making action plans for how to reach out to those people and really engage and try and encourage them to come year on year afterwards. So I think that proactive approach and that accountability can be really important.
Anyone else? Jill?
Sorry. I was concentrating on what Mel said. So, look, I've always been working and not gone to that many festivals, other people's festivals. And when I do, I usually go and have a few beers and sort of don't look for that particular space within their festivals. So I'd be lying if I say I know all of them spaces around. All I know is I did create that at Black Deer, and I do believe it's massively important. So yeah, sorry.
So have you got an example?
From a personal experiences, meeting people 12 weeks, doing a cohort with them, and then looking around and seeing that we're running the stage at Glastonbury. And then the second year, doing an actual takeover with that group and having a takeover of a stage in Glastonbury was very, very big deal for myself to see that. And a lot of the people who've done the cohort with me was inspired by that to believe that we can do this, and it's now led to some of us planning to try and do our own festivals and mini takeovers at these festivals.
Has there been a good reaction to that?
Definitely, I've definitely seen it. Again, like I said, being from Bristol, the cohorts moved from London to Bristol, and a lot of people are asking me how do I get involved and believing in the opportunity, because the opportunities wasn't there before in my experience and opinion, and that's what's happening now.
And how, talking of opportunities, do you feel though, since, say, in the last 10, 20, 30, even 40 years, do you think opportunities and this kind of what we're talking about here, has it improved? To offer like a positive note, Mel, do you think it, since whenever, has it now, is it so much better than it was before, in terms of the opportunities and the talent we're fostering? And yeah. Or Andrew, sorry.
I think one of the things we do at Attitude is Everything, we chair LEAF, or the Live Events Access Forum, which is a collection of different organisations from around the world working in access at events. So I do get a little bit of an insight into kind of how we do as a country. I think we're kind of like above average. What we're really good at is at process, at compliance. We're really good at building good community and disability-led structures. But what we don't have is kind of good support from the government. What we do have is the Equality Act 2010, which essentially gives us what we call positive duty to make sure that people with different backgrounds, different experiences, different characteristics, protected characteristics, are considered in a legal framework. Whereas you go to somewhere like New Zealand or the Netherlands, and it's a negative duty framework, so something needs to happen. There needs to be like an accident or a problem in order for legislation and protections to follow. So I think we're doing better in the UK. I think there's a worrying trend of tracing North American policies, which we're doing on the quiet within the UK government, which is backsliding protections for many people. I also think there is, again, with the geopolitical discourse, there is a concern now where equality is being attacked rather than being kind of sideswiped. And I think we need to be super conscious of that, because there's a lot of funding that comes in through government into particular roles at local government levels. There's particular roles at all of our festivals, events and organisations. If political expediency goes one way, we're going to lose that. And I'm worried that we're just a few steps behind our old colony.
And just wanted to shift it a little bit, and then, because there's so much that DEI can actually include, and something I wanted to talk about was like the ticket prices of festivals, because that still is inclusion, that that it can price out a lot of people, and I feel they're getting very, very expensive these days. And then even when you get to the festival, you're paying 12 quid for a very warm, not nice beer and some overcooked burger, and it's just like, what am I paying this for? Do you feel a lot of people are getting priced out of festivals these days, and do you feel some festivals are actually doing okay with keeping their prices down? Jill?
I can really speak from a festival organiser, festival founder, co-founder, of what it's like running a festival, and believe you me, to do it in a way that you're looking after your customers as best you can from a safety point of view, from giving a great opportunity for them to watch amazing artists. It ain't cheap. And my festival that I started in 2018 is no longer happening. In 2014 was the last, 2024 was the last year it happened, because it was so cost prohibitive to put a festival on of quality and to give your customers what they wanted. So I know it's very easy to go, that beer was this or that, but it's bloody expensive to put on a festival. And I believe that less and less independents are going to be able to afford to do something really, really well in the future. That concerns me, because I think all the creativity that goes on in this country needs to be nurtured, and it's like the grassroots artists and the venues that are closing. We are losing in this country every single bit of all of that creativity, and that scares me.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Jill. Mel, how do you balance that, especially as an independent? Because you know, and independents, you do feel are more for the people, so you want to keep the prices down. You don't want to price people out. But like Jill said, it's so hard for independents, and we see independent festivals cancelling or postponing so often nowadays. You know, it's a difficult question, but how do you strike that balance where you maintain it financially, which is so difficult, but also, you know.
I think it's getting more and more challenging because a lot of events we've done were funded by local authorities, and that funding is pretty much gone. They're now just looking for more commercial operations to come in. I mean, we receive some funding from the Arts Council, which is brilliant, and that enables us to run some of our programmes. But I think it is very difficult on, like Jill says, things do cost. Since COVID, things have gone up about 40% in a lot of areas. No one's wages have gone up that much. So those costs, they just don't really balance. And I think especially some events where you can't take in your own cooker, can't take in your own beers, you're really sort of trapping people in this sort of overpriced world, which can be quite challenging, I think.
Ty or Andrew, do you have anything to add to that? It looks like we've got about 5 minutes left, which is perfect time for questions. There's so many things you can talk about on this panel because it covers so much. So I feel like we could have had another hour and talk about so many more things. But I'll just open it to the floor for the last 5 minutes if there's any questions for anyone. We've got one up there, and we've got a few actually. Have we got a row? I'll just take the mics now.
Hi, I guess it's not a question. My name is Steve Wood. I'm director of the Welfare Crew, Events Wellbeing. We do about 70 events every single year, and since COVID, we've done it for 21 years. Welfare isn't welfare like it used to be. Welfare completely changed, and we recognise that welfare isn't the place for everybody. Century tents are popping up everywhere, but how well they're doing them is a different factor. We recognised it 3 years ago that we needed to do something different, and when it comes down to budgets, the budget just wasn't there. So every time you said this is how much it's going to cost, it got a knockback. So we went out and we just bought bell tents, and we do our own century tents. So we actually provide a lot of festivals free century tents running next door to it, completely separate to it. Lots of widget toys. We do a blackout one, we do a slightly different colour one. We've got the different lighting systems in there. So I think if some companies can look at it, that it's not all about money, which is what you were saying, and it's not all about money for us, you can get around it and you can provide that good experience and get that good feedback. So there are things that we can do out there.
That's so lovely. Well done. That's really
Very
lovely
well.
to hear. Thank you.
Very well said. I'll just come up here.
Hey guys, my name is Des from Certify World. We do digital activations. And I suppose the main question I wanted to ask is, like, how do you basically move DEI from it just being like a moral conversation to one that can actually show that if you get involved, it actually helps with commercial growth? Because what I find is that a lot of conversations around DEI, we know that it can actually drive a lot of revenue. It can actually do a lot of things in order to kind of make the festival so much more sustainable and also bring in a lot of profit. But clearly, like, the first time when people think about DEI, they think it has a moral standpoint first and foremost, when it's like, no, it can actually help from a commercial standpoint. So what are your views on that?
I love that question, and thank you very much for asking it. I think I'm always cautious when you want to make a commercial or economic case for DEI. I think that's a human kind of value for me. But there are ways that we can quantify that in terms of value. One of the things that we're looking to do on the State of Access report with Attitude is Everything this year is quantify the contribution, the economic contribution of disabled people to events. So when they're working as stewards, when they're working on volunteer teams, when they're part of crews, using wage proxies, like, what is the net contribution? I think we don't talk enough in positive terms, which is why I love that question, because we're always doing a cost rather than an investment balanced conversation. So thank you.
Just got one more question.
One down here as well.
Hi there. So my name's Dinesh. I'm a freelancer. I'm in stage and pyrotechnics. So really good conversation. I think I've got a number of points there, but I think my question would be, is whilst I agree that companies should enforce the diversity and make it more inclusive, but then thing is, we need to kind of stop just focusing on numbers, because people think numbers is the answer and really it's not. Are you going to make sure that they are safe when they go in that institution and they're going to also have rights? And the reason why I've said that is from my own experience. You know, I've gone through bullying, I've been through racism, discrimination, and recently ableism, which for me now has just become normalized. And even if when I have spoken out, I have been blacklisted as a result. So my only question is, on that, is how can we make sure that people are safe when they are in the industry? Because as we just mentioned, we don't want talent to be lost. But then a lot of these institutions are kind of stuck in the past. So how are we going to get them to move forward from that?
I think that's a really good point. One of the things we try and do with our festival lab is to try and make sure we've got support with our students on site, and trying to look at not just their experience working, say, in a production office or on the stage, but kind of the whole experience from arriving, how they set up, supporting them with camping, and just looking a little bit wider than just one element of it, and also trying to make sure that any training and any information is spread across everyone working, so that it isn't just the direct interaction, it's all of it. It's from when you apply, it's from when you get on site to when you leave, and that you're looking at it really broadly to try and break down those barriers so that the experience is positive, that you don't come away from it feeling like you've been bullied or excluded, or that it's been too cliquey when you're on site.
Anyone want to add to that before I go to the next question?
Hi, my name's Thomas Barker. I'm an accessibility specialist. Question for you, probably mostly for you, Andrew, but also for the rest of the panel. As the young person was saying earlier about bullying in the workplace once we're in these sites, I find sometimes that even when I'm brought in as an accessibility consultant, as a specialist in my field, that when I am making recommendations or even pointing out legal regulations which have to be followed, I still find myself at loggerheads with festival organizers and people at the top of site production, things like that. I was wondering, from event organizers' point of view and also from people with accessibility specialism point of view, how do we handle this in terms of remaining professional, but also driving home the point of we are brought in for our specialism? How do we ensure that we are listened to and that festivals and events do take on board what we say and remain professional when, I suppose, when you reach a point where you cannot be professional anymore sometimes?
Oh, I hear like 100 stories in that question. Firstly, I'm sorry you've had that experience. I think broadly we agree as an events industry, rule number one is don't be a dick. So number one, I think in that interaction, the fact that you know and have confidence that you were the one being professional, you were the one in a positive duty position trying to help people, and you knew that the people that coming back at you weren't understanding and weren't acknowledging those challenges. My own personal belief and the way I've done it, and I'm not sure this is the best advice, is if you can't be professional, don't be professional. If someone's calling something out which is well beyond that human value of protection from harm, compassion for others, the basic shit we kind of feel on a day-to-day basis, if someone uses that professional framework and that hierarchy and that power dynamic to quieten your voice, they're not being professional. And I'm not inciting violence, but you should advocate for yourself in the moment would be my suggestion. I wish I had a better response, but that's what I've done.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your response. I suppose what I'm looking at also is, are there whistleblowing systems in place for DEI in the events industry? Because I've only been in it for 3 or 4 years. So I was just wondering if
So can you say the question again?
Is there such in terms of like whistleblowing and things like that? What's the view of people on whistleblowing when things don't go
On
right?
whistleblowing? Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a divide between what I'd call activists and collectivists. I find people who are new to the industry come in with a lot of passion, a lot of energy and a lot of fire, and they start throwing rocks and pointing out the things that are wrong. And they do that to the people that have been trying to fix those very problems for the last 10, 20, 30 years. So I think there is a generational divide at the moment in how we communicate around that. I think it's, again, very challenging. But more conversation, more face-to-face, more community building, and more panels and kind of programs like these are helping to build that coherence. So I think we're still on that hamster wheel, but hopefully one day we'll have a time to get off and nibble at the snacks.
Cheers, everyone. That's all we have time for today. Thank you for your questions and thank you for engaging. It's always good to engage and keep the conversation up around this topic. So a little round of applause for our panelists, please.